Next article. Corporate news fails us again. Gulf is a kill zone. This is from Democracy Now! Activist Jerry Cope stated that there has been a tremendous cover-up to conceal the whole situation from the public. Remember, even the corporate news has complained about the restrictions around the beaches. What has BP been attempting to cover up? In and around Orange Beach, Alabama, a massive amount of people are sick from a toxic mixture of oil and Corexit 9500. Cope stated that Orange Beach and Gulf Shores, Alabama are kind of like ground zero. Doctors are lost in the wind when it comes to proper treatment for the chemical rape of the people in the Gulf Coast region. Cope had this to say regarding his own health. This is the doctor. He said, "Myself, I have pneumonia induced by chemical exposure." End of quote. Numerous fishermen have stated that a very large-scale operation took place to cover up the loss of marine life. We're going to talk about that in depth in a little bit here. BP, along with multiple federal agencies, have literally gathered up the carcasses of dead animals, disposed of them. At the same time, the corporate news continues to report that wildlife exposure to toxic chemicals have been relatively minor. Workers at the source reported that the sea was literally full of animal carcasses, unreported by the fraudulent media, and the carcasses eventually all disappeared. We're going to talk about that. One thing was clear, we're not getting the whole story. All manner of apocalyptic scenarios were running through my head that morning when by chance I received a very strange message that pointed to a less than fantastic but horrific explanation. It was a text message that had been sent on a borrowed phone to a man's wife. According to the person who forwarded it to me, a man who had just returned from what many now call as the Gulf Death Gyre. The message was emailed to a family friend who posted it on Facebook, and it has since been recirculated. Here's the text. You will notice a few colloquialisms that are specific to the Bayou talk, meaning kind of the little way that they talk. So read through the lines and forgive the misspellings. Here's the text message. I have to write this mail on a new cell phone because they have taken our phones off of us. People don't know how bad this oil is. I'm working in a cleanup operation. Okay, so continuing here. Let's see here. We have two mascots with us, Puffy and Ramsey. And they're powder puff, Chinese crested powder puff doggies. And they're our official mascots for the End Time Current Event Bible Study from now on. And Puffy just decided that he wanted to try my coffee. I had some organic coffee here. And Puffy had a little drink, and so we had to kind of get that all hammered out. And Puffy's probably going to be very energetic here. Anyway, let's go further here. So this text message, I'm going back to it. He says, I'm working in a cleanup operation, and we've all had to sign a legal paper that stops us from talking to anyone. Now, again, this is a fact. That is true. If you worked for BP, you had to sign papers where you couldn't say a word about it. And it was a great way they could shut up all the fishermen. Because the fishermen were out of work, but they needed work. So then what they did is they worked for BP, and they're working for the very company that caused this horrific thing. And they're coming down with health things and this and that. And they also have to keep their mouths shut if they want to keep their job. So it's a great way for BP to shut a lot of people up that would probably normally be very vocal, you know. So he says, I'm working in the cleanup operation. We've all had to sign legal papers. I'm on shore now and can't tell you where. I've just finished a very long shift in the Gulf, and I'm texting this as fast as I can. The military are watching us. The dolphins, the whales, the seabirds, and the fish are all floating dead on the surface of the water. He said, I see more and more. Boats, helicopters are scooping them away, dead and dying. Whales are being exploded by the military because they can't be carried. The dead bodies as far as the eye can see. The smell of benzene in the air. We've seen birds fall from the sky. Workers falling sick. We think some workers have died. My friends are hard oilmen. And it was okay. It was not okay at the start. But now, when it all started, but now we cry. Dead sea life as big as genocide. You can't imagine it. Okay, that was the text message. So, back to the story. It says, since no one has yet been able to get this individual to go on record, and the Facebook post was eventually taken down, this can't be taken as hard evidence. But it does beg the question, just how many animals have died because of the worst oil spill in U.S. history? Now, that text message rings true with a ton of other independent reports we have reported on in several other teachings. So I wouldn't have read that unless it didn't ring true with the other stuff we've reported on. But again, it's being suppressed. According to the latest count on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Daily Collection Report, and there's a little link to the PDF, they're claiming only 4,100 birds, 670 turtles, 70 sea mammals, and 1 snake have died in the Gulf since April 20th. Assuming this is a 50% mortality of live animals. It's an astonishingly low number, considering that one of the largest pods of sperm whales in the U.S. resided just miles from the site of the BP Macondo well, which is aka the Deepwater Horizon well. This is a region home to one of the most abundant and biodiverse marine ecosystems in the world. Compare those small numbers that we just cited with the Exxon Valdez oil spill. The best estimates on that spill put the toll at which is a far smaller oil spill, but the numbers there are much greater than what they're claiming for the Gulf. They're saying on the Exxon Valdez oil spill, 200,000 birds, including hundreds of eagles, died, more than 3,000 sea mammals, 20 whales, billions of fish eggs. The accident permanently wiped out the herring population in this Alaskan region. And it was an accident 1/10 the size of Deepwater Horizon. And really, it could literally be 1/100th because we're not getting accurate numbers. I would say 1/10 would be, probably not even realistic. So let's go further. The supposed final tally of the BP oil spill is almost 5 million barrels of crude. Now, if that's what we're led to believe, but again, it could be far worse than that. This is compared to only about 500,000 barrels for the Exxon Valdez, a 1-to-10 ratio. Yes, the Alaska spill happened closer inland, but the oil was not fully integrated with the water column as it is in the BP Gusher, which is a far more pervasive and deadly scenario. Meaning the water column, I believe they're talking about the Gulf Stream and that type of thing. Okay, and then also it was not present in that particular spill was the toxic dispersants like Corexit, a chemical that has ironically been banned in Britain because of its impact on wildlife and human health. And yet it's BP, British Petroleum, that's spraying it. So, again, what we're dealing with here is a gigantic, massive cover-up. Media, they're telling us everything's good, don't worry, go back fishing, go down there, eat the fish. They're going to be opening up the beaches here. You got all these different scenarios going on, and it begs the question, you're looking at this and you're thinking, there's no way that you could have this little amount of damage to wildlife. And yet they had a media blackout zone, no flyover areas for a long time. And now why do they have no flyover areas if they weren't trying to hide something? There's just a lot of different things to look at here that do not add up. One would be forgiven then for assuming there should be a far greater body count than what is currently being reported by Fish and Wildlife Services. The same government office that famously blocked Anderson Cooper from peering past the 10-foot-high barricades that have been put up to enclose a bird receiving area. According to the map, the count should be the count of dead animals should be in the hundreds of thousands of dead birds, tens of thousands of sea mammals, and millions upon millions of fish and shellfish. So where are all the dead bodies? We should be seeing something like the mass dolphin kill off Zanzibar that resulted from a much smaller offshore oil leak. Is it possible that a massive cleanup operation in early June was focused on collecting dead animals out at sea and naturally forming death gyres, meaning these animals as they die, they tend to, the circulation of the water tends to kind of funnel them kind of together, and they're almost like mats of dead animals that you're dealing with there. According to a marine toxicologist, Ricky Ott, such gyres of dead and dying animals were common for weeks after the Exxon Valdez oil spill. And we know that BP was doing everything in its power to keep dead animal photographs out of the press. Kate Kate Shepard and Mac McKeelan of Mother Jones